What's up, Falcons Nation? It's your boy Jew coming at you guys with another edition of What's the Word, Dirty Bird. I hope you guys are having a great week so far. I do apologize that I'm a couple minutes late this evening, but I do see a couple people already in the chat, so I appreciate you guys being on time. I appreciate each of you guys joining. So we're going to jump right in and just say what's up to everybody in the building tonight. First off, what's up, Joseph Thornton? He was first one in the chat tonight. So what's going on, man? What's going on? GAT, X-Boy. What's going on, man? Lowski, word up. What's going on, man? Brian Peoples, what's happening, man? He says, waiting on the Pastor Jew with the sermon for tonight. Hey, I definitely got something for you guys tonight, man. ATL Leo, what's going on, man? I appreciate you joining tonight as always. My boy Bubba Gump in the building. What's happening, man? I hope you're having a great week so far. D. Coleman, what's happening, man? He says, Jew, what's going on, man? Ghost Peppers, what's happening? I hope you're having a great night as well. I appreciate you joining. Live Oak, what's happening? I appreciate you joining as well. All right. Yo. Rally, what's happening, man? I appreciate you joining tonight. Nathan Floyd, what up, man? I appreciate you joining as well. So we're going to jump right in. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. If you haven't already hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, definitely drop in the chat if you're new. We do welcome you, and I hope you hit that subscribe button before it's all said and done tonight. But we appreciate each and every one of you guys. Like I said, we do this every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. It's been a really busy week. Yesterday actually was my wife's birthday, so shouts out to my wife on her birthday. Next Tuesday is my birthday, me and my youngest son. So with Aries in the building. So I appreciate each and every one of you guys. But y'all definitely showed my wife some love. Yesterday was her birthday. So I've been really, really busy. I did drop a video early today, which was my first video of the week. It was a prospect video on Nolan Smith. So if you didn't get a chance to check that out, definitely go check that video out that I dropped earlier this evening. And what's going on, Dan? He says, let's talk the good talk, Jude 2K. And what's going on, Juan? He says, what's going on? He says, what's good, Jude? Smooth Criminal, the villain. And most definitely Smooth Criminal like Mike Jack. Like Michael Jackson, man. I appreciate you joining tonight as always. That's one of my bros over at AFN. So what's happening, man? That's one of my brothers right there. He says the Ram fam. What's going on? Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, the Aries is in the building. I appreciate the birthday love. Yeah, man. This coming Tuesday, April 11th, yes, me and my youngest birthday. But yesterday was my wife's birthday. She's actually born on 404 Day. So I know all of you Atlanta natives can appreciate the wife is born on 404 Day. So shouts out to the wife. She actually shares a birthday with the Hammer, Jesse Tuggle. So shouts out to my wife. And, I appreciate each and every one of you guys showing love. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and kind of jump into some of the topics for the night. We usually start off with Atlanta Falcons news. So this week hasn't been like really a lot of news as far as the free agency kind of has slowed down this week. But I do want to talk a little bit about Calais Campbell. I wanted to drop a video, but just hadn't had the chance to drop a video talking about Calais Campbell and pretty much my thoughts on his interview that he had. I believe it was either Monday, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was Monday that he had his interview. It was about a 30-minute interview or a press conference, and he kind of talked about why he chose Atlanta in free agency, and that he kind of believes that this Atlanta Falcons team could be special. He talked about Coach Arthur Smith, that he believes in Coach Arthur Smith's running scheme, and that when he played against him in the AFC South, when he was playing with the Jaguars, he was a huge fan of Arthur Smith as far as when he was coaching when he was coaching as the offensive coordinator, as the Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator. So I definitely think that Calais Campbell coming to the Atlanta Falcons, a lot of the things that he said about this team possibly being a team that could win the NFC South, a team that could make a deep playoff push. And he kind of talked about this Falcons team possibly being able to make a deep run in the playoffs. Talked about this being a wide open conference, basically the NFC South, that he believes that this Falcons team could do something special. He talked about Coach Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot wanting a violent defensive line. And I really think what was really interesting in his press conference is he talked about they basically see him as playing like that defensive end role on this Atlanta Falcons team. And I thought that was really interesting because I kind of thought that he would be more of the nose or the defensive tackle on this roster. But with them using him more as a defensive end, he said kind of playing like that Cam Jordan role. I thought that was really interesting that he possibly will be that guy on first and second down who's out there basically to stop the run and set the edge in the running game and basically shutting down opposing teams and limiting those rushing yards. So I really think, as I talked about a little bit last week, about us having kind of like sub packages, that Calais Campbell will be one of those guys in our base formations, where we may have Calais Campbell on one edge. You'll have Grady and probably Onyemata on the inside of the defensive line, and maybe like a Lorenzo Carter on the opposite side. Or if we were to draft like a Tyree Wilson or another bigger defensive end, you possibly see one of those guys on the other edge. And then like on rushing downs, meaning on passing downs, like third down, third and long, you'll probably see guys like Arnold Ebiketie on the edge. You'll probably see guys like Caden Ellis. He'll probably be one of those guys on the edge. Is more of the hybrid outside linebacker types. But I thought it was interesting that they're looking at Calais Campbell more as that defensive end role and him not really playing a lot on the inside. Now, I do think that they'll move him around, but I'm really surprised that they're going to use him more as a defensive end, kind of like in that Cam Jordan role. That really was shocking. But what it kind of tells me is that this Falcons team, if they actually go after a defensive edge in this draft, it kind of tells me that they're looking for, or they may go after, if they're looking for those bigger type of defensive ends, they could possibly go after a Tyree Wilson. Like he could be a guy that's really high on their draft board. If they're looking for the next Cam Jordan, if they're looking for another, bigger defensive end, he could be one of those guys that they're really narrowing it down. Now, if they're looking for an outside linebacker type, I did do a video earlier talking about Nolan Smith, and I think he'll fit this team perfectly as well because he's similar to like a Caden Ellis type. But I wouldn't be shocked to see them go after Tyree Wilson because he's similar to like a Calais Campbell. He's a guy that's like 6'6", 275 pounds or 280 pounds. He's one of those bigger physical defensive ends. Not really one of those guys that are one of those quick, twitchy guys. He's more of the traditional defensive end. So I thought that was really interesting. And I thought it was interesting that Calais Campbell kind of talked about he's watched tape on guys like Desmond Ridder. He talked about Tyler Algier, that he thought that he was a really special running back and could be one of the better running backs in the game. And I was just really shocked to hear the way that he basically spoke glowingly about the Atlanta Falcons and some of the young players that's on the team. And he also talked about us playing in basically having like 7 games that we lost on the road that were all one possession games. And he kind of talked about this team being competitive. So with that being said, that's my thoughts on that interview or press conference that Calais Campbell had. So I don't believe that, the narratives that the media are painting. We heard Joy Taylor come out. We heard, different, talking heads kind of been stating that the Falcons don't want to win because they didn't go after Lamar Jackson. So I think he kind of basically crushed or demolished all of that talk that we heard last week in the media, that the Falcons are not one of those teams that are trying to win, because Calais Campbell's a veteran. He's a guy on the back end of his career. And basically he was looking for a team that could possibly be a contender. At this point, Calais Campbell hasn't won a Super Bowl. He did play in one Super Bowl, which the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Arizona Cardinals years ago when they had Kurt Warner and Larry Fitzgerald and those guys on that Cardinals team. So at this point in Calais Campbell's career, he basically talked about wanting to end his career on a high note and possibly, go to a team that would have a chance to make the playoffs. And once you get in the playoffs, as he kind of talked about, anything is possible once you get in the playoffs because it's one game elimination. And he was like, if we're playing good football heading into the playoffs, we've seen teams go on runs, even wild card teams go on runs to the Super Bowl. So I just thought that a lot of things that he stated was really interesting. But with that being said, I do want to kind of jump back into the chat really quick just to see who's joined kind of while I was talking. And let's see here. All right. So Liquors with Lenore, what's going on, man? I appreciate you joining tonight as well. And I appreciate everybody that wished me and my family a happy birthday. Eastside, man, Atlanta. He says, get them likes up. Yeah, most definitely. If y'all haven't hit that like button, definitely hit that like button, boy. Hit that subscribe button. You guys, like, ever since I hit 2,000, I've been getting a lot of new subscribers. So I appreciate you guys sharing out my content. I appreciate you guys not only sharing out my content, but definitely sharing out my brother's contents as well. Mad Mike Sports, he's on his way to 10K. 6-man K Styles, he's on his way to 2K. So you guys definitely hit each and every one of our channels. AFN, go over and hit that like and subscribe button on all of the channels, man. We appreciate it. And speaking of Mad Mike, man, what's going on, man? Mad Mike in the building. What's happening, bro? I appreciate you joining us as well. Quentin Willis says, what up? You the man. I appreciate it, man. Red Swamp says, what's good, brother Jew? Today happens to be my birthday as well. Oh, man, happy birthday, man. Shout out to the Aries, man. The Aries in the building strong. Dreddy, what's going on? He says, what's good, Jew? What's happening, bro? All right, Jonte Rosier, he says, listening at work. Hey, man, I hope that I'm giving you a show, man, while you're at work, man. Hope I help your shift go by a little bit faster. I appreciate you joining me. Michael Walker, what's going on? As K Styles always says, not that Michael Walker. I appreciate you joining, man. He said 4 out of 5 Aries for life. Hey, no doubt, man. The Aries is in the building. 4-5, April 5th. Yeah, my wife's birthday was yesterday, man. So I appreciate you joining me. And Todrick Davis says, hey, Jew, how would you feel about trading back and getting extra 2 and drafting Jahmyr Gibbs, that 2 pick we get? So this is my thing about trading back. I don't mind trading back, but we have to find a trading partner. Like, it's easy to say that we're going to trade back, but we have to have a team that really wants to come up and get that number 8 pick. Personally, I would like the Falcons to stay put. If one of the guys that we really want is on the draft board, like if you have on the draft board the kid Jalen Carter out of Georgia, if he's on the board, if Tyree Wilson's on the board, like if one of those guys that we really like is still on the board, I really don't see the Falcons trading back, to be completely honest, especially with all that we did, in the actual free agency. I really don't see the Falcons trading back in this scenario unless they just want, the draft picks. Like if a team is offering us, giving us a deal that we can't refuse, then I might see us trading back. But another thing that we have to think about, and I heard this on another show, I don't know if this was Mad Mike or K Styles, but they kind of talked about we still have to pay those guys. Like, yeah, we can trade back, and have more draft capital, whether it's this year or next year, but you still have to pay your draft class. So at this point, I'm not really caught up on having a ton of draft capital, a whole bunch of draft picks. I'm more in the favor of quality over quantity. So if we can get the best players, you don't necessarily need more draft picks. Like I said, now if a team is willing to give us the farm for that 8th pick because they're looking for like a quarterback or something, then you take it. But Jahmyr Gibbs, I definitely think Jahmyr Gibbs is another player that's on the Falcons' radar. I definitely am a fan of his. He's one of those guys similar to like an Alvin Kamara. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's really shifty and quick. You guys know that I'm a huge fan of Tank Bigsby, Auburn running back. You guys know I'm, partial because he played at Auburn, but he's another guy that's physical, who also is really twitchy, but he's also a guy that can run you over. So I definitely think Jahmyr Gibbs, and I definitely think the Falcons will end up drafting they will end up drafting a running back at some point in the draft. I don't know if it'll be Jahmyr Gibbs, but I definitely think that the Falcons at some point is going to have to draft the running back in this draft because CP is one of those guys that's getting older. Tyler Algier, yeah, he's a rookie. And yeah, you have Caleb Huntley, but he's coming off an injury. So you definitely going to still draft running back in this draft. You guys know my philosophy. My philosophy is you draft edge or defensive lineman, you draft running backs every single season. Those are positions that kind of wear down. So you have to have depth in those positions. And at this point, the way that the NFL is kind of set up, you really don't want to pay running backs top dollar. So it just seemed like it just hasn't panned out well. When you look at guys like Ezekiel Elliott, when you look at when we had Devontae Freeman, you look at Todd Gurley, you look at Saquon Barkley, a lot of these guys have had significant injuries. So I don't really believe in taking running backs really, really high. Like I hear a lot of people talking about Bijan Robinson out of Texas. I wouldn't take a running back in the first round. I just don't believe in doing that. When you have a guy like Tyler Algier, when you got in the 5th round, and he was a guy that rushed for over 1,000 yards, that just goes to show you that you don't need a running back in the first round. Like you can find running back talent at any point in the draft. You look at a guy like Pacheco that plays for the Kansas City Chiefs last season. He was like their starting running back when it was all said and done, and he pretty much balled out in the Super Bowl. He was a guy I think taken in like the 7th round or something like that, like the last round of the draft. So that just goes to show you can find running back talent anywhere in the draft. And shouts out to my brother, 6Man is in the building. Y'all go make sure y'all show him some love. Like I said, he's on his road to 2K as well. So y'all definitely go show him some love. And Sonia Howe jumped in here as well. She says, my mom's birthday is next Thursday. Well, happy birthday to your mom as well. Like I said, the Aries we in the building, man. Aries is deep in the building. So I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Yeah, but the Aries is taking over. And Eric Max says, Jude, what up? What it do, fam? I appreciate you joining me tonight as well. And K Styles threw another name in here. He said Sean Tucker is an interesting running back possibility. Yeah, I don't know a lot about Sean Tucker, but I know in this draft you can find running backs anywhere. Like Tajay Spears, there's a lot of guys in this draft that I kind of have, looked at some of their highlights and stuff like that. And you can find running backs at any point. Running backs, wide receivers, those type of positions, you can find them anywhere. You just got to basically have an eye for talent. But as far as running backs, I wouldn't take a running back in top, first round. Now, it's nothing against Bijan Robinson. Don't get me wrong. I do think he's like an excellent talent. I do think that he'll be a game changer, like right off the bat. I don't think all running backs are created equal, but I don't really feel like the Falcons need elite running back. Like we were a top 5. I think we were number 3 in rushing last season. So at this point, if you guys know, I really haven't broke down the offense, and that's why tonight I kind of want to talk about the offense because we've been focusing mainly on the defense, especially here on my channel. Like all I really have been talking about and doing my draft prospect videos have been all defensive players, and that's because the Falcons have struggled over the last 5 years that we've missed the playoffs. Last season we had 21 sacks. Like that just goes to show you that's where our Achilles heel is. To me, the Falcons haven't really ever struggled on the offensive end as far as being able to score touchdowns or put points on the board. Even when we had Matt Ryan in the last regime, we've always had like a high-powered offense. Our biggest issue was we couldn't get stops when we really needed them. And we can take that all the way back to 2016 in the Super Bowl, where you're up 28-3 at some point. You just need your defense to come up with one takeaway or one stop, to stop the bleeding. So at this point, I really think that the defense has kind of been the focal point of what we've been focusing on. Me, K-Styles, Mad Mike, we all been focusing on the defense and building a team. But tonight I do want to talk a little bit about the offense and kind of give you guys my thoughts on how the Atlanta Falcons offense can be more explosive. And then we also jump into some of the questions that you guys have as well. So with me saying that, I'm going to go ahead and just pull it up here because that's kind of like the next topic that I want to get into tonight and kind of talk about. And as I mentioned, like how can this Atlanta Falcons offense be more explosive this season? and who should be the X factors. Who are the players that we should focus on this year with this Atlanta Falcons team? And first off, we already know that Marcus Mariota, is no longer Atlanta Falcons. Now we have Desmond Ridder. He'll have his first season as a full-time starter. They've given him the keys to the car, and basically it's his organization at this point. He's the focal point. He's the franchise quarterback. It's his time to shine. It's his time to prove that, he's the man in Atlanta. And personally, I do think that this Atlanta Falcons team is going to take a step forward on the offense. I think we're going to take a leap forward on offense. And the reason that I think that this team is going to be a lot better this season on offense is because of Desmond Ridder. And I think the X factor on this team, believe it or not, is going to be Kyle Pitts and Drake London. Those are the two guys that I think in this offense, if you want to be more explosive, because last year we know that we struggled to throw the ball. We had explosive runs by Tyler Algier, but we didn't have many plays through the air or big explosive chunk yardage plays that you need because Marcus Mariota just didn't make, key throws. He missed key throws at critical, times. We had drops at times as well, but it just seems like Marcus Mariota, for whatever reason, he didn't have the accuracy. He didn't have the confidence to throw the ball in tight windows and stuff like that. And even when guys were running wide open, in some cases, he was missing Kyle Pitts wide open. He was overshooting guys like Drake London at 6'5". And I really feel like this season for this Atlanta Falcons team to be more explosive, I think Kyle Pitts this year is going to have a big year. If he comes back healthy, knock on wood, I really think that the focus should be Kyle Pitts. You hear Mad Mike talk about all the time that this Atlanta Falcons offense is similar to the Kansas City Chiefs offense. And when you think about the Kansas City Chiefs offense, the engine on that team that makes that team go in the passing game, yeah, you have Pat Mahomes, who's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play this game, but you have Kelsey. Kelsey is the X factor on that team as far as the pass catching. You've seen them allow the cheetah, Tyreek Hill. They traded him to the Miami Dolphins. They were able to let him walk because they knew that pretty much the focal point, no disrespect to, to the cheetah, because he's one of the better wide receivers in the game, but their passing game revolves around Travis Kelce and his versatility to play tight end, to play wide receiver, to play in the slot, to be able to move all over the field because of his size and his athleticism and him being a mismatch nightmare. And I really want to see this year, and I think we're going to see it this year because Desmond Ridder is a guy that wants to throw the ball down the field. We're going to see this team open it up a little bit more this year. I do think we're still going to run the ball with success. I think we're still going to be a run-first team. But if we want to take that next step on offense and be more explosive, I really think that Kyle Pitts is going to be the X factor, both him and Drake London. So they're like 1A, 1B. But I really think Kyle Pitts is really that guy that should be able to take his game to the next level. He should be talked about as an all-pro after this season. I really think he should be in a conversation as one of the best tight ends in the game. I already think that he has definitely the skill set to be one of the best players. But last year, we didn't get to see how well or how good of a player Kyle Pitts is because we didn't have the quarterback that was able to make the necessary throws in critical situations. So I think this season, you're going to see both Kyle Pitts and Drake London. You're going to see their numbers jump exponentially. I think you're going to see their numbers, their catches, everything go up, their touchdowns. You're going to see all of that go up because Desmond Ridder is one of those guys that can spin the ball. He's a guy that's going to put the ball where it needs to be. We seen last year with him playing with guys like Michael Pruitt, running down the seams, making big catches. I think Michael Pruitt had the first touchdown that Desmond Ridder threw was to Michael Pruitt. So Michael Pruitt basically was playing the position of a Kyle Pitts. So I really think this year you're going to see Kyle Pitts kind of take his game to that next level. And I really think that he's the Travis Kelce of our team or on this offense. He's the guy that's the most versatile player on this offense as far as pass catcher because he has that 4.4 speed. He's athletic. He is pretty much nothing that he can't do. You can line him up at tight end. You can line him up in the backfield. You can line him up in the slot. I really think that Kyle Pitts needs to be the X factor, and he'll be the focal point of this offense. And I believe that they brought in a Jonnu Smith to kind of be one of those guys to take some of that attention away from a guy like Kyle Pitts, so he'll get more favorable matchups. So I really think in this offense to be more explosive, it's going to take Kyle Pitts getting more opportunities down the field. And now that we have a quarterback that's not afraid to put the ball where it needs to be, he's not afraid to take those shots down the field. We've seen as soon as Mariota went to the bench and they threw in Desmond Ridder, we seen Drake London, who really wasn't, his numbers were looking pedestrian with Marcus Mariota. We seen his numbers jump. As soon as they threw Desmond Ridder in the game, he pretty much was looking for Drake London. In any critical situation, the ball was going number 5's way. So I expect the same thing this year with number 8. I really think that we're going to see Kyle Pitts kind of be that unicorn that we talk about. That's his nickname, the unicorn. I really think this year you're going to see Kyle Pitts take his game to that next level. And that's going to be because of Desmond Ridder's ability to throw the ball down the field, him not being reluctant to put the ball where it needs to be, him not being reluctant and him understanding. Even when Drake London looks like he's covered, even when Kyle Pitts looks like he's covered, 9 times out of 10 in a jump ball situation, those guys will come down with the ball. So that's just kind of, what I've been thinking. I do want to jump into the chat because I know I kind of been preaching a little bit, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on what this Falcons team needs to do to be more explosive on offense. But personally, I think that that's what this Falcons team needs to do to be more explosive is make Kyle Pitts the X factor. You have to make him be one of the focal points of the team. I understand that you want to run the ball. I understand that Tyler Algier, that we're going to set the tone with the running game. But as Juan always says, pick your poison. I really believe that Kyle Pitts, he's one of those guys that he's going to get open. In most situations, it's hard to cover him. Just like I talked about Travis Kelce being one of those guys that's like almost impossible to cover, especially with the rule changes. Kyle Pitts and Drake London, those guys are impossible to cover, basically. Even if you try to double and triple team those guys, the way that the rules are, if you just throw it up and give those guys a chance, those guys are going to be able to make plays. And with us having, Jonnu Smith, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, CP, Tyler Algier, when you have all of these guys, Matt Collins, you have so many different weapons, you can't double team everybody. So it's going to be a pick your poison type situation. But with that being said, I do want to get you guys' thoughts as well. So let me jump back into the chat. And Man Mike says, Jew, what are your thoughts on Marcus Mariota saying this is a great opportunity for me to help a younger guy out in Jalen Hurts? I really think that with Marcus Mariota, that's tough. That's a tough question. I mean, I think that Marcus Mariota is being genuine when he says that he's going to do everything in his power to help Jalen Hurts. I feel bad, bad how things ended here in Atlanta for Marcus Mariota because he kind of was thrown under the bus. And, he did, as we say, he quit on the team. He left the team. It just ended kind of ugly. I do think that Marcus Mariota deep down is a really good dude. I just really think that in the situation, he didn't maximize his moment. He had a chance to possibly resurrect his career. Arthur Smith gave him a chance, and it just didn't work out. So I really feel bad. I mean, I do think with Jalen Hurts, he's going to do everything in his power to help Jalen Hurts succeed. But at the same time, I think in the Eagles situation, Marcus Mariota kind of knows that it's a wrap. Like I think at this point, he knows that he probably won't get another chance to start unless somebody gets hurt. And Jalen Hurts just went to a Super Bowl with the Eagles. So at this point, as much as he says he's going to do everything in his power to help Jalen Hurts don't look like he needs too much help. So at this point, I think Marcus Mariota just knows like he's a journeyman at this point. So, I mean, at this point, I have no bad blood with Marcus Mariota. I don't like the way that he left Desmond Ridder kind of high and dry, but I think he kind of saw the writing on the wall. And Desmond Ridder, when he finally got his opportunity to be the starter, to me, he kind of capitalized and kind of didn't look back. And I figured that would happen at some point. If Marcus Mariota didn't play well, that Desmond Ridder was going to come in and kind of take the reins. And pretty much that's what we saw. So I wish Marcus Mariota nothing but the best. But at this point, I think he's going to be holding a lot of clipboards. I don't think he's going to be playing, knock on wood, unless something happens to Jalen Hurts. I don't think we're going to see much of Marcus Mariota moving forward. And let's see, I'm gonna scroll down some here. And Tony Wright says the Falcons traded Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and middle linebacker Deion Jones, while they all still had skills with the team. As we now see, all three players' skills have diminished greatly after leaving Atlanta. I definitely think that Matt Ryan is kind of the writings on the wall for him, and Julio Jones. I don't know about Deion Jones. I don't know if his skills have diminished because I didn't really see him play a whole lot with the Cleveland Browns. I know last year I believe he was suffering from a shoulder injury, so I think Deion Jones still has a lot left in the tank. You guys know that I was a huge Deion Jones fan. Matt Ryan, he's on the back end of his career. He might play maybe another year or two. Julio Jones, he was when he left Atlanta to be like. That's why I keep saying with the whole Julio Jones situation, he kind of did us a favor by kind of fleecing the Tennessee Titans when we made that trade because he kind of knew that, those hamstrings and things of that nature, that he was injury prone at this point. So he really didn't even play a whole lot. I think he played maybe 5 games with the Bucks last year, but at this point he's done. Like Julio, great Atlanta Falcons, one of the greatest wide receivers in Atlanta Falcons history, definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. Arguably the best wide receiver in his generation outside of Megatron. But yeah, at this point, the writing's on the wall. I think Julio might, soon retire as well. He's one of those guys. I think that it's a wrap. Let's see here. And Pat Norris, what's going on? He says, "Hey, Drew, do you think we should hire Terrence Mathis as our assistant wide receiver coach? I think we have a DB coach as a wide receiver coach. Thoughts?" I would love to see Terrence Mathis get a job. We did have him on the show. I think it was last season. Me, Matt, Mike, and Six Man. We had him on the show. And Terrence Mathis is also has a YouTube channel as well. So you guys check him out at Atlanta Falcons Unlimited. He does some great podcasting as well. But I definitely think that the Falcons should bring him in. Like if he wants to be a coach, I don't see why. I mean, Terrence Mathis is also a Falcons legend, one of the greatest wide receivers in Falcons history. So if we can bring him in, I wouldn't mind bringing him in. I don't know, what Arthur Smith and what this coaching staff, because usually with coaches, they hire guys that they know, guys that they're familiar with. So in this instance, I don't know how well Arthur Smith knows Terrence Mathis or guys on this staff, but I definitely think that Terrence Mathis would make a great wide receivers coach because he did it at the highest level and he's been a coach, I believe, on the collegiate ranks, in the collegiate ranks. So I definitely think that he would be a good coach. As far as having a DB coach as a wide receiver coach, I really don't mind that. We seen when we had Raheem Morris here, they moved him all over the place. He was on the defensive side at one point, then they moved him to the offensive side, and he was coaching the wide receivers at one point. So if you're a great football mind, I do think that guys can do multiple, wear multiple hats or coach multiple positions. So I'm not too alarmed by us having a DB's coach as a wide receivers coach. Like you see guys move up the ranks, similar to Arthur Smith. He was like a video guy with the Redskins at that time. It was the Washington Redskins, now the Commanders. He kind of worked his way up as being a guy that was in the video room making film and stuff like that for the team. And then he kind of worked his way up the ranks, being a coach, being a coordinator, and then now he's a head coach for our team. So I wouldn't look at that, determine, whether he's a DB coach. I wouldn't determine that to say that he won't be a good wide receivers coach. But in regards to Terrence Mathis, I definitely think the Falcons should look at him if he's interested. It says wide receiver and defense in the draft for me. What about you, Ju? I definitely think we're going to take a wide receiver in this draft. I'm not too sure, what type of wide receiver they're going to actually go after, like whether it be one of the speedier guys like a Scotty Miller that we brought in, or whether it'll be one of those guys that's bigger. But I definitely think at some point in the draft, they're going to take a wide receiver because you got to have depth at that position. and we lost guys in free agency. Like they haven't brung back Alameda Zacchaeus. We lost Edwards that signed with the Saints, I believe. So we have a lot of space in that wide receiver room. I believe it's Drake London, Bernhardt, Frank Darby, Mac Hollins, and Scotty Miller. So you have space on this roster for more wide receivers, and I wouldn't be surprised. I definitely think that they're going to take wide receivers at some point in the draft. I don't think it'll be with our first round pick, but maybe in like the third, second or third round. But I definitely think that they're going to go after a wide receiver. And let's see here. And you guys can also start going ahead and dropping your questions as well in the chat. Let's see. And Eric Mack says, I like the left guard from North Dakota State. Yeah, I think that's the guy that got the front two teeth that's missing that everybody keep talking about. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we're going to take an offensive lineman as well in this draft as well. So I definitely think that kid out of North Dakota State is a really good draft prospect. But it's a lot of good offensive linemen in this draft. And the Falcons seem to understand how to develop offensive linemen, which isn't surprising because Arthur Smith is a former offensive lineman. When he played on the collegiate ranks at North Carolina, he was an offensive lineman. So it seemed like they understand how to develop offense. Ever since Cherry Fontenot, Arthur Smith, and his coaching staff has gotten here, our offensive line has gotten better every single season. So I definitely think that they're going to draft offensive linemen as well. You always draft in the trenches. As I say, you always draft offensive linemen. You always take defensive linemen. You always draft running backs. To me, that's those three position groups. You always got to keep rotating guys in or, drafting guys because guys get injured. Guys may need to get paid and you may not be able to afford to pay all five of your offensive linemen. So you got to continually develop offensive linemen, behind the starter. So I definitely think that the left guard of North Dakota State, but it's a lot of guys in this draft that I think the Falcons are taking a look at. He says, I think the left guard spot will be between Hennessy and Schaefer. I really think that it might be between Hennessy, Schaefer, and it's another guy out there, Jalen Mayfield. I think Jalen Mayfield is another name that recently was talked about. Terry Fontenot or somebody recently talked about Jalen Mayfield, who didn't play last year because of a back injury. I don't know if they're going to use him more as a swing tackle, but he also could be a guy that, throws his hat kind of in the ring for that left guard position. Personally, out of those three guys, I'm going with Matt Hennessy. It looks like Wilkerson, they're not going to bring him back. Elijah Wilkerson, I think he had he was going to visit like the Chicago Bears or something. It's something that I heard as a rumor that he's actually out there looking for a team in free agency. So it doesn't sound like they're bringing him back, which I thought he played okay for us last year. But Matt Hennessy played really well before he got injured. When he got in the game for Wilkerson, he actually played well before he got injured. And then when he came back, he played really well. So he could end up being the starting left guard, and I wouldn't be surprised. But I think it'll be out of Hennessy, Schaefer, and Mayfield. And my money's on Hennessy. I think Hennessy might get that spot. It says, I say we have what we need. Might need another wide receiver. Other than that, just balance offense we need to run. Yeah, I definitely think that we definitely going to continue to run the ball. Don't get me wrong. This is a run-first team. But I think that you're going to see more explosive plays, and that's kind of what we need on this offense. We got to be more explosive. Last year, what held us back is we didn't make enough explosive plays when it really mattered. Like we had guys like Drake London come up with crucial fumbles at critical moments in that Saints game, the ball getting punched out. I believe it was like 2 or 3 weeks in a row where Drake London fumbled the ball. So we got to get, be more explosive in the passing game. And last year we weren't that explosive. And that was more, I think it had more to do with Mariota more than it had to do with the wide receivers. Some of the wide receivers did struggle to get open, but Mariota was also missing guys as well. Like we've had guys that was open and he was just missing them. And we clearly seen that when Drake London, basically when Ritter went into the game, we seen Drake London while he was the 8th pick overall. Like he just took off as soon as Ritter got put in the game. So that tells me that either Mariota and Drake London weren't on the same page, or Mariota was just not getting the ball, putting the ball where it needed to be. And when I went back and just looked at some of the games from last season, I put it more on Marcus Mariota not putting the ball where it needed to be, because it was guys running open at times and he was missing wide open guys. So at this point, that's the reason that they decided to move on midway through the season last year. But shouts out to my boy Red Swarm for the $4.99 super chat. He says, what's the word, Dirty Bird? Wilkerson signed with the Cardinals. Oh, I appreciate that. So I didn't know that he signed already. I know he was out there looking for another team. So yeah, Wilkerson, I thought that it was the Chicago Bears that he had a visit with, but he signed with Arizona. So yeah, I definitely thought that the Falcons weren't looking to bring him back. And at this point, I don't think that it was a bad idea not to bring him back, because you've seen Hennessy pretty much ball out. Once Hennessy got in the game, you've seen that you had a guy behind Wilkerson that was playing really well. And that's why I go back to what I just said about you always want to be drafting offensive linemen and developing those guys, because injuries are going to happen at some point. You're only as strong as your weakest link. So you got to keep bringing in guys on the defensive line, on the offensive line. Got to keep developing those guys. And to be honest, we don't know, how much Jalen Mayfield has improved, because he didn't play it all last season. So I'm really interested to see, how he comes back, how well he plays coming back next season. And let's see. My boy Big Ant in the chat as well. Shouts out to you. He says, where do you see us drafting a corner or safety in this draft? So we could take one as early as the first round. Like if they decide that, based on how our draft board falls, if Jalen Carter's not on the board, if Tyree Wilson's not on the board, you guys know I like Lucas Van Ness. You guys know that I like Nolan Smith, but they may have Christian Gonzalez higher on their draft board than like a Lucas Van Ness, or higher on their draft board than like a Nolan Smith. So it just depends on how they value the cornerback position. But I'll say probably the second or third round. If they end up taking like Tyree Wilson, I think in a second round or third round, they'll take a corner or a safety. Most likely a corner. They probably are not going to take a safety, because you have Hawkins, who now is probably be a rotational guy, because now you have Jesse Bates and you have Richie Grant. So I definitely think that at this point you're kind of loaded in the safety, in the safety position room. But they may still bring in a safety as well in the draft. But I think it'll be corner, because you have Casey Hayward, who's kind of long in the tooth, getting older and is injury prone. So they're going to go after a corner. And I think Keely Ringo is a guy that I think that we need to, that's the name to watch. I really think that the Falcons are really looking at Keely Ringo. If we don't take Jalen Carter, or if we don't go after one of the Georgia guys like Nolan Smith, I think early second round, I think the Falcons they like Keely Ringo. And I think he could be a guy that'll be an Atlanta Falcon, because Nielsen likes to run a lot of man coverage, and Keely Ringo is really good at, he's a really good cover guy. He's fast. He can tackle. So I really think that he's a guy. Everybody's focusing on Christian Gonzalez, and I think, everybody, thinks that he'll be the guy that the Falcons draft. But I think it might be like a Keely Ringo that the Falcons could target maybe in like early second round, or if they want to trade back into the first round, even trade back into the late first round. But I really think second round is probably where we'll see a guy come off the board as far as a defensive back, either second or third round. And Tony Wright says the Falcons should use one of their 2 4th-round picks to consider drafting Tyler Scott, Cincinnati, 5'10", 180 pounds. He may be the fastest receiver in the draft class with good production. I definitely think that Tyler Scott is a guy that they could possibly look at, because he has chemistry with Desmond Ridder. So if they want to bring in a guy that played with Desmond Ridder and they already are kind of on the same wavelength, he could be a guy that they go after. But the kid Palmer, I believe his name is Trey Palmer, out of I think he played with Nebraska. They talked about him last night on the show. Matt, Mike, and K-Styles kind of talked about him. He's another guy that's a really speedster, a guy that ran a 4.33 40 at the combine. That could be a guy as well to be on our radar as well as far as the Falcons. But Tyler Scott is another guy that's really a speedster as well. And I definitely could see the Falcons taking him because you always want to bring in guys that make your quarterback comfortable. And being that Tyler Scott played with Desmond Ridder, I definitely could see that being a good draft move because you already kind of have that chemistry already. And shouts out to my boy J Rock in the building. Also, AFN partner, one of our partners over at AFN. So shouts out to J Rock as well. And I think he dropped the question in here. Let's see. And J Rock says, Jew, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Mike and K Styles at corner. Who would you prefer, Gonzo or Weatherspoon? I want your take. I would take Gonzalez over Weatherspoon, but I like Weatherspoon a lot. But if you're looking for a pure cover corner, I think that Christian Gonzalez is a little bit more fluid, meaning his hips. He's one of those guys that's, if you watched him at the combine, if you go watch his tape at Oregon, he's a guy that's going to remind you of AJ Terrell. Long, 6'2", and a guy that can move his feet, move his hips, and is really good at, twisting and turning. And that's things you have to be able to do at that cornerback position. Now, if you're looking for a guy that's like a tackler, physical, and that's ultra aggressive, then I would say Witherspoon. But if you personally asking me, I'm going with Christian Gonzalez over Witherspoon, just for the mere fact that he's just a pure cover guy. Witherspoon is a guy that's going to take risk, meaning he's, high risk, high reward type deal. He can get interceptions and make big hits and stuff, but he's going to get beat on double moves in the NFL. He's going to be one of those guys similar to Peters that plays with the Ravens, where it's like when he's balling, but then there's going to be times where he's getting cooked. Now, that's no disrespect, Peters, because I like Marcus Peters' game a lot, but that's kind of where I stand on that. Like, it's feast or famine type deal with players like Witherspoon. But I really think he's going to be a good corner because his physicality. And I like corners that come up and tackle in the run game and, are not afraid to tackle. But Witherspoon is another guy that probably will have, knock on wood, he could be a guy that has injuries because he reminds me of like a DeMonte Casey in the point that he'll be a guy that knock another player out of the game, but he is a guy that can knock himself out of the game too because he doesn't care about his body. He kind of plays with reckless abandon, where Christian Gonzalez is going to be a guy that's just going to focus on like locking up the opposing wide receiver. Christian Gonzalez is not the best tackler. He can tackle, but he's not the best tackler, and he's not the most physical guy. He's just a guy that's, a great cover corner. So I really think if you're looking for a guy that's going to be physical and tackle and stuff like that and take risks, then you're going to want a guy like Witherspoon. But personally, I'll go with Christian Gonzalez because to me, if you're drafting a corner at 8, you probably want a guy that can play the football. And Witherspoon, to me, doesn't play the football as well as a Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez, to me, is better and has more awareness as far as being able to intercept the ball, understanding, things of that nature. Witherspoon is a guy who just reads and reacts. He's more of a guy that's just ultra aggressive, which is a good thing as well. He kind of puts me in the mind of CJ Gardner-Johnson that played with the Saints and the Eagles. Witherspoon puts me in the mind of him. I don't know if he covers as well as CJ Gardner-Johnson, but as far as like his attitude, his ability to tackle and fearlessness and, a guy that's going to talk trash and stuff like that, that's Witherspoon. So, if it's out of those two, I'll take Gonzalez. That's my long answer. And let's see. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. And this is an interesting question right here. Ghost Pepper says, Jew, what Falcons player of the past would you add to this year's team? If I can have any Falcons player from any team, like from the past to add, it would be John Abraham. John Abraham was a guy that could get to the quarterback. So you guys know that I'm trenches. That's like what I focus on, the defense. And John Abraham would be a guy I would add to this team because with the firepower that we have now with Calais Campbell, Grady, he never played when he played with our Falcons team. John Abraham never had the guy on the other side that was like a threat, like you know, Grady Jarrett, Calais Campbell. He never had future Hall of Famers possibly, on the opposite side of him. So you add John Abraham to this team, it would be lethal because he's special. Or he was special when he played with the Atlanta Falcons. So it would definitely be Johnny Abraham if I could add anybody to this Falcons team from the past. And let's see. And this question here said, "Hey Jude, what's your thoughts on Deontay Banks?" I haven't seen tape on him. I don't even know what position he plays. I appreciate the question, but you giving me a name that I'm gonna have to do a prospect video on. I'm gonna have to go check him out. But if you can drop in the chat what position he plays, I definitely go check him out because I haven't any tape on Deontay Banks. Let's see. And I see everybody saying can't see Gonzalez or Nolan Smith. I think Cansey isn't Cansey. Is he the guy that plays for Northwestern? You guys let me know if he's the guy that plays for Northwestern. I don't know. I don't know. Out of those guys, I'm taking Nolan Smith. To be honest with you guys, after I kind of did my research and looked up on some things as far as Nolan Smith, Terrence Mathis, if you guys haven't checked out Atlanta Falcons Unlimited, their last show, he kind of stated that he think Nolan Smith would be a perfect fit for this team. And when legends like Terrence Mathis talk, I listen. When guys like Deion Sanders, Terrence Mathis, Chuck Smith, when these got type of guys that played the game, when they talk, I listen. And basically, Terrence Mathis basically stated that he thinks that Nolan Smith should be the pick at 8. So that made me kind of go in, even though I always do my due diligence. Nolan Smith, I kind of fell in love with the kid after I basically heard, just his background, the way that he grew up, humble beginnings, him kind of having like a great head on his shoulders. Like he was a very smart kid, graduated with his mathematics degree at Georgia, was a 4-year senior, like stayed all 4 years and just was one of the leaders on that defense. And as a guy that's, can do multiple things as far as being versatile, I think that Nolan Smith, out of those 3 guys, I would go with Nolan Smith. I think he's a guy that is going to be a great professional. Like I think that kind of goes overlooked. So let's see. Red Swamp says, "Is Gonzo all day for me? Go look at his combine tape. Boy got WD-40 hips, smooth, no hitch, flips his hips and turns on a dime and go. Him and AJ is a no-fly zone." Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, Gonzo is a beast. If you want to take a corner, Gonzo is the guy. He's the best corner in this draft. Personally, I think he's the best corner, just pure cover corner. If you're not, putting in tackling, if you're not putting in all of the other factors, if you're just saying go out here and lock somebody up and be able to cover them like a 7-on-7 drill, I think that Gonzo is the best corner in this draft, personally. But I definitely think, like you said, WD-40, yeah, that dude probably got the best hips. As Shakira say, hips don't lie. Yeah, Gonzo is one of those guys that can move his hips, man. And he's a guy that is, like I said, he's similar to AJ Terrell. Like when I seen him in the combine, I thought I was watching AJ Terrell. The way that he moves, his fluidity, the way that he gets in and out, things of that nature, I think he's going to be a really, really good pro. But you guys know that I always go trenches before a corner. Now, if we didn't have an AJ Terrell on our team and we didn't have like a bona fide, top corner on the team, then Christian Gonzalez would be my guy. But right now on my draft board, how I have it kind of listed is like Jalen Carter 1. If Jalen Carter's not there, Tyree Wilson. If Tyree Wilson's not there, Nolan Smith. And then everybody falls underneath that. Then it's then it's Gonzalez, Christian Gonzalez. Those guys kind of fall up under those top 3 edges. I also didn't throw Will Anderson in there. He's above Christian Gonzalez as well. But I think Will Anderson will be gone by the time he gets to us. But just listening to the rumors of people saying that Jalen Carter's going to drop or fall in the draft, he's top on my board. So Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, Nolan Smith, and then Gonzo. Those guys will fall underneath. So probably like Gonzo, Lucas Van Ness, and then we'll go from there. But I definitely think that Gonzo, you can't go wrong. Like I really feel like he's like a can't miss prospect, and I think he would just be like a bookend almost. Like if you have him on the opposite side of AJ Terrell, at that point you do got a no-fly zone. But shouts out to Red Swarm. I appreciate the $9.99 super chat. You giving all look, you making it rain in here, man. I appreciate it, man. The second super chat of the night, man. So I appreciate it. And Live Oak says, man, I miss them D block days. We really we ready for y'all. Yeah, we ready. Yeah, I miss those D block days as well. I miss Willie Moe saying Falcons fans. Yeah, I miss that group. One of my favorite Atlanta Falcons group, especially back in 2012 when that team went to the NFC Championship game, should have went to the Super Bowl. I really think that team would have beat the Baltimore Ravens in the Super Bowl. You had Matt Ryan, Tony Gonzalez, Michael Turner, Roddy White, Julio Jones. Yeah, I was a huge fan of that team, but my favorite defensive player from that team was Sean Weatherspoon. I love me some Sean Weatherspoon at that middle linebacker position. To me, he was the guy that was like that bona fide leader. And, one of those guys that would hit anything moving, Sean Weatherspoon was going to lay a lick. If you guys remember what he did to RG3 on the sideline when he laid the wood, yeah, Sean Weatherspoon was one of those guys that's one of my favorite all-time Falcons. But that 2012 team, to me, is probably one of the most underrated teams, probably a top 5 Falcons roster when you think about it, looking back on that team. But definitely think that team in D Block was definitely something that I think was interesting because it kind of brought the fans into the locker room. You kind of got to know the players. You seen that camaraderie. Guys like Mike Peterson, that was that linebacker that was basically playing special teams, but he was kind of like one of the voices on that team. I mean, like I said, that was one of my favorite teams. Steven Nicholas and those guys, Keem Dent. Yeah, you had guys on that team. Those guys were super close. But Spoon was definitely my favorite defensive player on that 2012 team. But you had the Jonathan Babineaus. I believe they still had at that point. Was Asante Samuels on that team? I think it was Asante Samuels, if I'm not mistaken. He was on that roster as well. So yeah, that team was special. Let's see here. And Tony Wright says Jalen Carter will not fall. The Seattle Seahawks have 2 first-round picks, 5 and 20. They will draft Carter at pick 5. Yeah, I definitely think they could, but I think Seattle might go with like a Tyree Wilson as well. So it's kind of like again, what Juan say, pick your poison. Like if they take Jalen Carter, then I'm taking Tyree Wilson. So it's a win-win situation. Like I really feel like at 8, the reason I wouldn't trade down if I'm the Falcons at 8 is because I feel like because so many of those quarterbacks are going to go in the top 5 to 6 picks, a lot of those defensive players are going to just keep getting pushed down to the Falcons at 8. So hopefully the Will Andersons just keep dropping. Hopefully the first 3 picks or 4 picks are quarterbacks. If that turns out to be the case, then you're going to have your pick of the litter because then it's going to be a Jalen Carter still there. It's going to be a Will Anderson possibly still there or Tyree Wilson. One of those 3 players are automatically going to drop to the Falcons. So my hope is that it's Jalen Carter, but I really feel like Tyree Wilson or, the other guys, Tyree Wilson or Gonzo, you can't go wrong at 8 with any of those guys because all of those guys are arguably could be top 5. All of those guys are top 10 picks. Yeah, Brian People says Asante Samuel and Brent Grimes, Lord have mercy. Yeah, that team was loaded. Yeah, if you go look at that 2012 roster, it was ridiculous. That team was loaded. And Ghost Pepper says, I think John Abraham from the past will be a menace on this year's Falcons team. However, I would have to roll with defensive end Claude Humphrey. Oh yeah, Claude Humphrey was a beast in itself. I think he could play like the 3 tech, the defensive end position. Of course, Claude Humphreys was before my time, so I didn't get to see him play, and I haven't seen like any too many highlights of him. But I know that he was one of those guys who was one of those bigger defensive linemen. So he definitely will wreak havoc in today's NFL because he played in an era where you could actually hurt players. Like you actually could inflict pain on the quarterback. There weren't no rules, player safety and all of that. So Claude Humphreys would be a different beast, a different animal. Like I don't even know if he would want to play in today's NFL because those guys back in those days, the Leatherheads, playing in those days where guys would literally, take punishment. At this point, you can't even play defense the way that they played defense back in those days. But he definitely will probably be a beast. Definitely would be a beast in today's game. And let's see. D. Coleman says, "What do you think about Trenton's Simpson trade back first round?" I think that's the linebacker out of Clemson, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's one of those freak athletes as well. And he could be a guy that's on the Falcons' radar. I don't know if they'll go after him because I think that he's like a hybrid player. I think he's a guy who can rush the passer, and he also is one of those freak athletes. But I don't know if the Falcons necessarily will draft him. I'll be really, really surprised if they take him in the first round. I think that the Falcons, if he is on their draft board, he's probably far down on their draft board. I really think they're looking for a defensive end, like a defensive end or edge. I really think they're looking for like a guy that can be one of those guys that's a game record. I don't know if Simpson is a game record. I think he's a guy that could be like a rotational guy, which we have guys on this team that are rotational guys like that. Arnold Ebiketis, the D'Angelo Malones. I don't know if Simpson, unless they want him to be the middle linebacker or something like that, then they might take him. But I don't even see them drafting. I think he's going to go. He'll be off the board. I think he'll go to like another team because I don't think they'll take him like at 8. That'll be way too high to take Simpson. But I could see him possibly playing for a team like the Eagles, a team that needs like another outside linebacker or a linebacker type. But I don't know if, how high he is on the Falcons draft board. And let's see. It says there will be a trade on draft night. The Arizona Cardinals at pick number 3 are fielding several phone calls from teams wanting to trade up. Stay tuned. Yeah, I definitely think that they are because the Arizona Cardinals have their quarterback already. So it's teams that are looking for a quarterback. If you're looking for a quarterback like the Colts, and it's teams further back in the draft that may be looking for a quarterback like the Titans. Their team, I don't know why they're looking for a quarterback because they just drafted Malik Willis and they still have Tannehill. So I guess they're going to draft a quarterback every season until they find one. But good luck, good luck on that. But yeah, I definitely think that the Arizona Cardinals possibly could be trying to trade back. I don't know why they would be trying to trade back because if I'm the Cardinals, if Jalen Carter is there, which he should probably be there at 3, I think that they should just go ahead and take Jalen Carter, take a difference maker. Sometimes trading back doesn't make sense if you're actually coveting a certain type of player. So they could trade back depending on if a team is willing to give up the farm. And I'm going to get ready to wrap it up, you guys. So definitely I'll take like 3 more questions and then I'll give you guys your night back because I actually want to go and check out this Lakers versus Clippers game tonight, which has huge playoff implications. You guys know that I'm actually a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, and we wrapped up the 4th seed, so we'll have home court advantage starting the NBA playoffs. But I'm a huge NBA fan as well, so I'm definitely trying to check out the Clippers and Lakers at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So I definitely will take a couple more questions. Let's see. And D. Coleman says, kind of off topic, but how far are your Cavs going in this playoffs? Hey, the Cavs can take it all the way to the chip. Like, to be honest, I know I'm biased, But if you guys look at the Cavs roster, like our team is loaded. And when you get into the playoffs, that's when your bench come into play. And the Cavs, they play really good defense. They're like top 5 in defensive efficiency. And getting getting Donovan Mitchell, that was a great trade for the Cavaliers, getting Donovan Mitchell for our team. We were kind of missing that superstar since LeBron left. We had guys like Colin Sexton, who I really like. We had guys like Darius Garland, but we've done a great job at trading, and our GM Kobe Altman's done a great job at bringing in young talent like Jared Allen, Evan Mobley. Yeah, man, our team is loaded. Isaac Okoro, like we got guys. The Cavs are a small market team, but they're a sleeper team. So don't be surprised if the Cavs end up in, being in like the Eastern Conference Finals. Or I definitely think that they're going to at least win the first round matchup. I think we have the Knicks in the first round, and I expect the Cavs to win that matchup. But in in the finals, like the Eastern Conference Finals, we could run up against a team that has more experience, like the Boston Celtics, who was in the finals last year, like Giannis and the Bucks, who right now they're the cream of the crop right now in the East. I think they won like 57 games, close to 60 games. And we know that Giannis is a whole different beast. Like that dude is a beast. So I really think the Cavs could go to the finals because you got guys on our front line like Evan Mobley and like Jared Allen, and we have depth. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Cavs get to the finals or even get to the Eastern Conference Finals. I just think once you get to the Eastern Conference Finals, our coach is going to have to know how to make the proper adjustments, and then it's going to come down to experience because guys like Jason Tatum and those boys over there for Boston, and even the Bucks 2 years ago, they won the championship. So you got teams with that playoff medal and that championship pedigree. And the Cleveland Cavs, we're a really young team. This is the first time we've been in the playoffs since LeBron left. So you got a lot of young guys like Darius Garland. You got young guys like Evan Mobley. This will be their first playoff experience. So, I think that the Falcons, I think that the Cavs can go, is deep. They have the team to go really deep in the playoffs, but I think once it comes down to the Eastern Conference, finals and stuff like that, you might run up against a team that got more experience, and that could come back to bite us in the tail. But I definitely think we got the firepower to get out of the East. But it's just gonna come down to, as I stated, the experience. It's really gonna come down to the experience. And let's see. It says, what's your thoughts on taking Tuli Pelotu in the second round? I did a prospect video on Tuli Pelotu. He's a guy I really, really like out of USC. He's a sleeper pick. I think he's a guy that the Falcons could take. If the Falcons say they end up going with a Gonzo, they take Christian Gonzalez in the first round. Tuli Pelotu, he could be a guy that they take in the second round. If all of the guys that we liked from the first round are going at that point, which they will be, because if you go with a corner, Tyree Wilson, all of those guys are going to be off the board. Even a guy like Lucas Van Ness, I don't see him fall into the second round. So at that point, you're going to have to go with like a Tuli Pelotu, because I don't know if he'll be a first round pick. He's a guy you probably be able to get in the second or third round. But I like him a lot. Like he's a guy who can do it all. Traditional defensive end, power. Is a lot more athletic than you think because of his size. I think he's like 6'4", 6'5", 280 pounds. But I really, really like him. And he's a name that a lot of people are not talking about. But he put up great numbers at USC. I think 1 year he led the nation in sacks. So he's a guy that I really think is a sleeper for the Falcons. And let's see here. And I'll take two more questions. And Big Ant says, watch out for Washington to trade up into the top 10. Yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, if they don't go after Lamar Jackson, Washington is a team that needs a quarterback. So I could see them trading up into the first, into the top 10 in the first round and trying to get one of these quarterbacks. But if I were them, Well, at this point, I think they can't afford Lamar Jackson because they brought back Deron Payne. So if they don't like the quarterbacks that they have, they probably will have to go up, have to trade up into the draft to get one of these guys. And to be honest, I think the Washington should trade up because they have a defense that's ready made to win now. And they have players on their offense as well. You know, you got Scary Terry McLaurin, and they have a couple of wide receivers that they've drafted the last couple years as well. So I think that they're kind of like a ready made team to win now. They just haven't had the quarterback play. So if I'm them, I'm definitely trying to trade up with one of these teams because their defense is ready. And Live Oak says, can't wait till Calais Campbell get around the team and bring that leadership and knowledge to these younger guys. His mic'd up is inspiring. Yeah, no, I definitely think that Calais Campbell is going to be that same. He's going to play that same role that Dwight Freeney played, like bringing in those older guys that are future Hall of Fame type players and that have done it at the highest level. You know, they have credibility with the players. So even if the players you know, you can believe in the coaching staff and stuff like that, but it's a whole different ball game when you bring in a player that's done it at the highest level that can kind of tell you on the field, like, follow me. You can watch tape with the guy. He can show you, teach you different pass rush moves, teach you different tricks to the trade, that things that a coach that haven't played the game can't tell you. Like, you can watch as much tape as you want, but I talk about experience. Like, it's one thing to watch the game and be able to break down the game. It's a whole nother thing to have a feel to play the game. That's a whole nother side of it. So I definitely think having a guy like a Calais Campbell who can encourage these young players, a guy that's won at the highest level, and kind of teach these guys, the small intricate details that we always talk about that win games. So and also teach these young guys how to be pros, meaning how to take care of their body, nutrition, and all of that kind of stuff. Calais Campbell definitely is going to be a role model. And with that being said, we're going to get ready to wrap it up for the night. But I do want to answer this last thing. D. Coleman says, I got Memphis versus Philly in the finals today, subject to change, laugh out loud. Anybody can get out of the West because the West right now is deep. As far as it's wide open, like anybody can win it out West because everybody's injured. It seems like most of the teams out West are injured right now. Really, I think in the West, it'll probably come down to how healthy Phoenix is, the Lakers, how healthy they can stay. And Memphis, they've been a team that's been knocking on the door, but it's something missing with Memphis. For whatever reason, I don't think that they'll make the finals. It's something missing. I don't know what it is with Memphis that I don't feel like it's something missing. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's this whole Ja Morant situation, but it seems like they're always like a good regular season team. But in the playoffs, for some reason, when you get in a series, it seems like it's easy to kind of figure them out. And I think it has to do with Ja Morant kind of, being a guy that's ball dominant. I don't know what it is, but it's something missing with the Grizzlies. So I don't think the Grizzlies will get out. I'm thinking that it'll come down to the Lakers. I think they'll be a team that can possibly make it. If the Clippers get healthy, the Clippers could be one of those teams that get out the West. But really, I really think it's going to come down to the Lakers and Phoenix. Those are the two teams that I'm watching due to all of the injuries that have taken place. I really think that those are the two teams that could possibly be teams that make a deep run. The Nuggets kind of have fell off for whatever reason. They had kind of depth, but they fell off. But the Clippers is another team that I think is a sleeper team. If they're able to get healthy, if Paul George comes back healthy, they could be a sleeper team as well. But I think it'll come down to the Clippers, the Lakers, and the Suns. Those are the three teams to be to watch in the West. In the East, it's going to come down to the Celtics, the Bucks, and the Cavs. To me, those are the three teams that I'm kind of watching as far as their deep teams. And I really think that they have the coaching, and that's what I really think a lot of these playoff series are going to come down to. So, and shouts out to my boy Blackberry. He says, "You are the Hawks good enough to surprise some folks?" The Hawks, they've disappointed me this year, to be honest. I think the Hawks, I don't know if it's coaching or if it's the actual players when it comes to the Hawks. I like Trae Young a lot. I think Trae Young is a superstar, or I'll say he's an all-star. He's a guy that's really, really good. But for whatever reason, Collins, since he's gotten that contract, he just hasn't lived up to that contract that he got. So I really think with the Hawks, I think they're like a year or two away. I really think that they need to go out. I really think it has to do with coaching, really. Y'all lost Nick McMillan or fired Nick McMillan, but I think it's gonna take time for I think y'all have Quinn Snyder now as your head coach, which he's a good head coach. He was with Utah for a couple years. I think that the Hawks has a chance, but I don't think it's this season. It's the Hawks are another Grizzlies. It's something missing with the Hawks. I don't know what it is, but it's something missing with that Hawks team. I definitely think that they have the talent, but I don't know if it's coaching or whatever it is, but they need to find somebody that can press the right buttons with John Collins. I think Collins is really the biggest like question mark on y'all team, similar to like what's going on with the Lakers and Anthony Davis. Like Anthony Davis has to be a guy that's more of a focal point. And I think that's the problem with the Hawks is you have Trae Young, but who's going to be that number 2 guy? I know you guys went out and got the kid from the Spurs this year, Murray. I like his game a lot, but I think that the Hawks are missing like that third consistent scorer, like on the inside. And I really think that's John Collins. If the Hawks are going to surprise people, John Collins is going to have to average like a double-double. He's going to have to play better. If he don't play better and he keeps being iffy, then I think that's the biggest Achilles heel with the Hawks. Trae Young is good. You know what you're going to get out of Trae Young. You know what you're going to get out of Murray. But I don't know about John Collins. For whatever reason, he got all the athletic ability. He got, he can shoot. He can do pretty much everything. It's just for whatever reason, since he got paid, it seemed like he's kind of, resting on his laurels. So he's a guy that y'all need to tap for whoever it is. They need to find the right key, tap into that dude, and get him hungry. If John Collins can step his game up, I really think that y'all could do something. I think the Hawks could do something, but I don't see it happening this season. Maybe they can win like a round if John Collins plays up to his caliber, because he has skills. I've seen it. He has skills, but for whatever reason, I don't know what it's going to take to pull it out of him. And sometimes a player just has to have that hunger. Like Trae Young has that hunger. He has that dog in him. For whatever reason, John Collins to me just doesn't have that dog in him, or he hasn't had that dog in him this season. So that's what I really feel like the biggest question mark for the Hawks is, will y'all get John Collins to play up to his caliber and live up to that contract? If he plays up to his caliber, then the Hawks can go as deep as any of these teams, because now you got that 3-headed monster. You got that third scorer. But until y'all get that consistent third guy that can kind of pull his weight and help Trae Young and Murray, I think that the Hawks going to continue to struggle. But with that being said, this being your boy Jew, I appreciate each and every one of you guys for joining me tonight. Definitely hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button for your boy. Definitely go over to each and every one of our channels. Go over to my boy Blackberry LaRex. You guys hit that like and subscribe button. He's on his way to 1,000 subscribers. Go over to Mad Mike's on his way to 10K. So you guys definitely go over and get him over to 10K. Go over to 6-Man K Styles, get my boy to 2K. And as you guys know, I'm on my way to 3K. But I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I'll holler at you guys. I'm going to give you guys your night back. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up, be blessed. Peace.